annual notice as defined by Chapter 231 PL 1975, and that copies of the annual notice have been mailed and/or delivered to the North Star Ledger, the Home News and Tribune, and posted and filed in the City Clerk's office in compliance with the terms of the Open Public Meetings Law, Chapter 231 PL 1975, on December 15, 2011. Roll call.
Trustee Sullivan?
Here.
Trustee Fiala?
Present.
Treasurer Sanchez?
Here.
Ms. Mazza?
Here.
And Secretary Allen present.
At this time, I'd like to open up the floor to any members of the public who wish to address this board. Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the meeting. We have Pete Easton from Acacia.
We also have our minutes from the prior meeting.
That's right. We need a motion to approve and/or correct minutes from the prior meeting of January 11.
Move the minutes.
Moved by Commissioner Sullivan,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We've asked our financial advisor, Peter Nissen from the Acacia folks, to give us a briefing on where we're at relative to the financial structure of PACE. With that, Peter.
Sure. I apologize that I don't normally have my brief little handout. I apologize. I was delayed getting out of the office on time, and I left them sitting on my desk. So I will overnight those tomorrow for your arrival. Will that be Friday or Monday? And maybe you can disseminate them to the members of PACE and to your authority members as well. But I can give you a quick summary. The last one that we talked about in December when I was last here, there are, again, 7 accounts that were opened up through the process of the various bonds that were issued by the authority. 3 of those represented sort of bond proceeds or the original payments from the county, the easement payments originally. In its simplest form, the first was the New Market tax credit proceeds, the second was the public bond proceeds, and the third were the easement payments that were made by the county. The first 2 of those accounts then subsequently or immediately funded 4 other accounts, 2 of which were cost of issuance. Those have been completely and fully depleted. A third of which was for capitalized interest relating to the public bonds that were issued. That account also has been fully depleted, meaning that last November's bond payment, the public bonds, was the last that's covered by capitalized interest. The payments coming due following that, the first of which will be May 1st of this year, will be paid by federal subsidy payments that we make for the Super Badge program. Secondly, from the college easement payments, and then to the extent it's necessary from the parking authority. The last of those 4 accounts is what is effectively a tantamount to a debt service reserve fund, and that is only to be tapped in the event that there are insufficient funds to make a debt service payment. That one is also fully funded as it has been since day one. It has never been touched. Regarding the construction funds, the bond proceeds from the New Market tax credits have been depleted. The bond proceeds from the public bond issues have been depleted, and there still remains about $3.5 million of additional funds available that are in the original proceeds from the county easement payments. I believe we're going to need to make an allocation, but some of that will be attributable back to being tax-exempt bonds. We've done a little bit of work on that. If I understand correctly, I need a little bit of assistance from your bond counsel, who I think will be available shortly,
Yes.
in order for us to put that together. But that's the summary of it. The 2 public bond, the New Market tax credit and the public bonds issues have been fully depleted. There's about $3.5 million remaining in the other account. Relative also to work, and presumably at this point it's just punch list item that remains outstanding for the capital construction of the project.
The remaining funds will be directed to completing the outfitting of the commercial structure of the building next to it. The exterior has been completed, the elevators are in place, but it's very much an open floor plan, and it's our intent to, depending upon what our real estate endeavors yield, to be able to craft a structure that would meet whatever those needs would be. So that money's been already tagged and identified for that purpose.
Thank you, Pete. Any questions, comments? Alrighty. You have anything else, Carlos?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, so the next meeting will be
September.
summer will be able to
September 12th.
Number 12.
John, one quick question, and I'm not, and more Carla. What, as far as the commercial component of the project, are we have any potential perspectives that are we advertising this anywhere? Are we have brokers looking at it, or?
The parking authority at its meeting this evening put out RFQs specifically for that purpose, and we expect the commissioners to evaluate and pass upon a proposed response that we received from Jones Lang LaSalle.
Yes.
That will be at this evening's meeting.
Very good.
And if that is the case, then we have a meeting set up with Jones, along with Peter, our financial advisor, for this coming Friday to evaluate what our options are.
Yes. With that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Sullivan, seconded by Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Daniel move it?
Yes, sir.
This is the regular meeting of the Parking Authority of the City of Elizabeth, New Jersey, listed in the annual notice as defined by Chapter 231 PL 1975. And then copies of the annual notice have been mailed and/or delivered to the New York Star Ledger, the Home News and Tribune, and posted and filed in the City Clerk's office in compliance with the terms of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231 PL 1975, on December 15, 2011. Call roll call.
Commissioner Payne.
Present.
Commissioner Medina.
Here.
Commissioner Gargano. Commissioner Bernal Castro.
Present.
Commissioner Maceda.
Present.
Vice Chairman Elias.
Present.
Chairman Palermo. 2 absent, 5 present. Okay.
At this time, I open the public speaking portion of the meeting. Seeing no one, the meeting is closed.
Chairman, I need a motion to approve and correct the minutes of the March 14th, 2012 meeting.
Motion.
Moved by Commissioner Bernal Castro, seconded by Commissioner Payne. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. There are financials. We have present our accountant Dave Shiroka. And everyone has copies of the financials. John, you want to?
Yeah, we've asked actually 2 of our financial resources to attend tonight. Peter is going to give us a summary of where we're at relative to the financial structure for the PACE. He'll give the same briefing which he just gave to that board. But we've also asked our accountant Dave Soroka to be present as well. Just every meeting we go through the financial results for the prior month, and just in case any of the commissioners have any questions regarding how that report's prepared or what it represents, we've asked Dave to attend as well this evening.
Okay, so first of all, Pete.
Thank you, Carla.
Okay, thank
Good evening, Commissioners. Let me start by apologizing. I normally come before you with a very short summary report, and I apologize. I was late getting out of my office, and they're sitting on my desk. So I've informed Carla I will overnight them, or in fact, I'll probably bring them with me since I'm coming here on Friday, so that she can subsequently disseminate them to you so that you'll have this information. But if you'll indulge me, I'll describe it a little bit again. The front summary page of the prior reports that I've typically provided indicate the status of the 7 accounts that were created from the various bond issues that were done and the various easements and easement payments that were received either respectively from the county or from the county college. Essentially, there are 3 primary accounts into which funds flowed in from the proceeds of the New Market Tax Credit bonds first, secondly from the public bond issue that was done in 2010, and third, in large part from the county easement payments that were derived. Subsequently to the creation of those 3 accounts, there were 4 additional accounts that were created. 2 of those were cost of issuance accounts. Those were funded and very quickly depleted from their respective bond issues. Thirdly, there was a capitalized interest account. That was an account into which funds were provided that paid for interest on the public bonds through and including the November payment in 2011. That account has now been fully depleted as was expected, meaning that now the operation of the facility is anticipated to make the payments on the forthcoming debt service payments on the public bonds. The fourth of those other additional accounts is what is called a reserve in aid of construction, which is sort of a fancy term for a reserve fund. That exists to the extent it is ever necessary because of insufficient revenues to provide payment on debt service, so it provides support. That account was fully funded at the time of the bond issuance. It has never been touched, as it should not have been at this point. So it is fully funded in the approximate amount of $1.5 million. The 3 first primary accounts, the construction funds, all the proceeds of the New Market Tax Credit transaction have been fully expended. All the proceeds of the public bond issues in 2010 have been fully expended. And of the approximately $5 million in easement payments that were received from the county initially over the first 8 or so months of the series of transactions, I believe that it's approximately $3.5 million of that remains outstanding, which is what the report would have had tonight, had I remembered bring it, would have shown. So that essentially represents the remainder of the outstanding of the proceeds of the various bond issues and the financial structure that was put in place starting in 2008 and completed sort of in 2010. And so largely that is expected to be, I think John might be talking a little bit about that tonight, or is to be utilized for the remainder of the efforts associated with the retail component of the project.
Right, we're not done with the project yet. We still have the 3-story commercial building that was erected in the precast stage along with the parking deck. I don't know how many of the commissioners have been in the interior of that building, but it is wide open. There is a lot to be done. The elevators are in place, but basically other than that, all 3 floors are to be configured. That's what that money is for, to enable us to, as you'll hear later in our efforts to identify real estate expertise, to determine what our options are with that space and to outfit the building to its best purposes. That's what that money's identified for.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we look at the financials.
Are there any questions for Peter from the commissioners? Good. Thank you, Peter. We'll see you Friday.
Okay, see you guys Friday. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
The financial report, which we produce every month, generally the director walks us through where we're at on a month-to-month basis, but I just thought we would benefit from having our accountant just give us a sense of what the report does show and relative to month-to-month, year-to-year, year-to-date, and how it is a useful tool for us to judge our progress. With that, I'll turn it over to Peter. I'm sorry, to David.
Effort you. Actually, having spoken to Peter, I had a few questions for him. You're talking about obviously the parking authority's financial statement.
Correct.
And as you might be aware, we do have a comparison between 2011 year to date. This report runs through the first 3 months of 2012. So revenues alone were ahead of where we were last year, which we should be because we brought on board, obviously, we have the new parking garage and we're starting to see some revenues generated from the parking garage in addition to, I know in 2011, one of the I don't recall, Carl, if it was lot 2, one of the lots, or lot 2 or lot 6 was under renovations.
That was lot 6 and 2, that was the year prior.
And those renovations have been completed. So really those are the primary reasons that we've seen an increase in revenues. But we also have to look at the expense side of it. And, obviously as we have incurred significant debt to build the garage, and we are the parking authority that is responsible for the maintenance of the garage, we will incur more expenses, obviously, because we have a bigger overall facility. We have more payroll, we have more repairs, maintenance, elevator contract, which we'd never had before. So, at the end of the day, we're hopeful, and we're in such, early stages of this whole transition that it's a little bit difficult to determine where we'll be. I think by year end we'll have a better idea. The garage just opened at the beginning of the year, so the anticipation and all the projections that were done by, I guess, Pete's group were that clearly we'd be bringing in revenues over and above what would allow us to not just pay back the debt service, but make more money in the end. So, and one of the things that Pete, this was one of the questions I had asked him, there's an agreement between, there are agreements all over the place, trying to wrap your hands around all this stuff. It still makes Carl and I talk about how it makes our heads spin when we see how many, the trust accounts, I think there's like 23 trust accounts that I have to summarize every month. So, and some of the bonds we're just paying interest on. We won't start paying principal on some of these bonds until, I think, 2013 or 14 at the earliest. And of course, we have multiple series of bonds. So, but one of the agreements has the parking authority paying to PACE an operating fee annually. And when I read the agreement, that fee is supposed to have been initiated in 2012. Well, Pete just told me that's going to be suspended. As a result, obviously, when they came up with that agreement, I think the garage was supposed to open in August or September of 2011. Obviously, with the delay, the operating fee is going to be delayed. So, when I created the budget for 2012, that was back in September, October. I still had to incorporate all of these costs and assumptions. So obviously, as the year progresses, we will start to see a little bit clearer picture. But and one of the things I'm working on now is what I refer to as the closeout of 2011 for PACE, so that we can get the auditors in here and produce a financial statement, and then I have to prepare a tax return. PACE is a nonprofit, unlike the parking authority, which is not a taxing or a taxable entity or is required to prepare a tax return. PACE does, and it's, I guess, submitted to whomever wants to see it, really, including holders of the bonds. So, the good news is we are seeing an increase in the revenues, and as the year progresses, I think we'll have a much clearer picture of what, now that the garage is up and operating, what the expenses related to the new facility will really accumulate to. So
So the budget was prepared with best estimates that...
it was prepared, yeah. I had to really sit down with Pete and get a bunch of information from Pete, because as they put this whole thing together, one of the things they do, of course, are all these projections based on certain assumptions. One of those assumptions, for instance, and it's a significant factor, is the retail space. They had assumed that the garage and the retail space would be open for business. I think it was August 1st, 2011. And then they do a projection. Well, we know on August 1st, 2011, we're not going to have 100% of the retail space occupied and generating rental. But we're not even there yet. So all of these projections that Pete and his firm presented, obviously there have been some changes to that. So when I prepared the parking authority budget, and the parking authority is entitled to those rental revenues, not PACE. And the parking authority is entitled to certain revenues that are generated from parking over and above, I guess, what's being committed from the county and the college. So there's all sorts of revenues and projections, and we're, the budget that was prepared, reality isn't going to look a whole lot like the budget that was prepared 7 or 8 months ago. So, but we'll see.
Okay. The additional revenues you're making reference to, those are the 300 spots for
Correct.
shoppers and merchants.
In addition to the rent from
Correct.
from the retail space.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in essence, due to the complexity of this whole project and the incorporation of PACE to Parking Authority, this was a great opportunity to have Dave come to his first actual PACE meeting this evening, as we start to open the garage and we're operating and we're getting daily revenue, et cetera. So the good news is that, number one, we're up from last year, $161,000. And also that we have developed a considerably positive rapport between Pete and Dave, and I wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that, because it does get very complex, so I'm happy to bring both of them together tonight, so you can just understand that it's a team effort to get these financials together. Are there any questions for Dave from the financials report? If not, I want to thank you, Dave, for
welcome.
your input and all the time and effort that you put into not only parking authority, but numbers.
These numbers?
Case numbers. With that, if there's no questions, I need a motion to accept the financials. Moved by Commissioner Castro, second by all in favor? Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. Carla, I'm gonna prepare this for the insurance company, and I'll leave it on the desk and stuff.
Great, thank you.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Next, I need a motion to approve the replenishment of petty cash in the amount of $55.50 for the period of February 26, 2012 through March 31st, 2012. Moved by Commissioner Mercedes, second by Commissioner Kane. All in favor?
Aye.
And also to pay the bills, motion to pay outstanding bills in the amount of $169,990.22 for April 11th.
I also move.
Moved by Commissioner Mercedes, second by Giselle Burnell Castro. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have a couple of items on the agenda for votes. Resolution number 18-20 would be, we are at that point after RFQ, we put out RFQs, we need to hire bond counsel so that we can proceed with Dave and the additional funding that's left over. So I'm going to have Carlos read the resolution.
Okay. This is another resolution that was an RFQ request for qualifications, and this was the particular bond counsel. We advertised it several times, nobody responded, but we got McMillan Scotland to respond.
Which was the firm which handled the initial
The
bond
initial bond.
program.
So they have experience on what we're doing and how to handle, especially the nuances of the new market tax credits and the different bonds. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'll just read you the highlights. Whereas the board and council has recommended an award of contract to be made to McMillan and Scotland LLC, attorneys at law, One Riverfront Plaza, Newark, New Jersey. And the bond counsel is to conduct bond counsel for the Parking Authority of the City of Elizabeth, shall provide bond counsel and legal services, including but not limited to development of the financial plan in connection with a project. Council will review or draft all documents necessary to effectuate the plan, including the ordinances or the resolution establishing the authority, if necessary, the general bond resolution, supplemental bond resolutions, or trust indentures, and other operative documents. And the proposal will also be required to represent, defend the authority and its officers and employees if the need arises in connection with any general bond-related matters, and the appropriate contract to be executed by the proper authority official for the period commencing April 1st, 2012 to December 31st, 2012. And so for the services in which McMillan and Scotland attorneys will be compensated not to exceed $25,000.
Okay.
Therefore, be resolved that by the Commission Parking Authority as follows: the executive director is thereby authorized and directed to execute a contract with McMillan and Scotland, attorney at law, One Riverfront Plaza, Newark, New Jersey, to perform the above described services. Well, you have to change it. And this contract is awarded without competitive bid as a professional service in accordance with NJSA 40A:11-2, parentheses 6 of the local public contracts law, because of McMillan Scotland, attorney at law, One Riverfront Plaza, Newark, New Jersey, is legal professional services are exempt by the provision of the local public contracts law.
Okay, with that being said, I need a motion to move the resolution to hire McMillan and Scotland as our counsel. Moved by Commissioner Bernal Castro.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Payne. Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Medina? Commissioner Gargano is absent. Commissioner Bernal Castro? Commissioner Maceda?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Leas?
Aye.
Chairman Palermo is absent. Thank you. Next is resolution number 19-2012. And this is, as we stated previously, we're now in the process of dealing with the retail portion of this project. We don't have the real estate expertise. We need to go out and get some help. And that we put out again an RFQ.
Whereas the Board Council has recommended an award of contract to be made to Jones Lang LaSalle, 430 Madison Avenue, 4th floor, New York, 10017, to provide real estate consulting services to the Parking Authority of the City of Elizabeth for the purpose of providing assistance to the authority on acquisition, disposition, leasing of real estate property, including but not limited to structuring, negotiating, documenting, and closing acquisition and dispositions, assisting in negotiations and documentation of contracts and other instruments related to the potential real estate development, structured joint ventures, ground leases, and other ownership and management arrangements. Develop financial assessments and feasibility analysis relating to real property and project development. Provide assistance to the authority with other real estate services required to facilitate projects, transactions, and other related real estate work, and that the appropriate contract be executed by the proper authority officials for the period of April 1st, 2012 to December 31st, 2012. And whereas the amount of the contract to be awarded to Jones Lang LaSalle at a cost not to exceed $25,000. Therefore, be resolved by the Commissioners of the Parking Authority of the City of Elizabeth as follows. The Executive Director is hereby authorized and directed to execute a contract with Jones Lang LaSalle, 430 Madison Avenue, 4th floor, New York, 10017, to perform the above described services at a cost not to exceed $25,000 for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2012, without the express approval of the governing body. This contract is awarded without competitive bidding as professional services in accordance with NJSA 40A:11-2, parentheses 6, for the local public contracts law, because Jones Lang LaSalle, 430 Madison Avenue, 4th floor, New York, 10017, are real estate financial consultants, are exempt under the provision of the local public contracts law. A notice of this action will be printed in upon the Star Ledger.
Okay, with that, I need a motion to accept or move the resolution to hire Jones Lang LaSalle for real estate services. Moved by Commissioner Maceda, second by Commissioner Bernal Castro. Commissioner Payne. Commissioner Medina.
Aye.
Commissioner Gargano. Commissioner Bernal Castro. Aye. Commissioner Maceda.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Leas.
Aye.
Chairman Palermo is absent. Thank you. Okay, other new business.
With the question I have for today, what was happening with the retail portion of it.
Right.
So I just got my answer.
I would like to bring to the table that I'd like to change our November meeting. We were originally scheduled for the November meeting on November 14th. But considering that there is the state, first of all, League of Municipalities and the state parking exhibits and convention on that date, I'm proposing that we move to the week after, which is November 21st. Okay. So we will change the November meeting from November 13th to November 21st, and that shall be posted in the newspaper. I need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Bernal Castro, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Also, just a note, you received the notice for disclosure form that I sent to everybody. Anyone that needs to see their prior years, please let me know. I have them available for you if you need any assistance in filling out the disclosure forms.
Just have to sign them and leave it with you.
Right, I need original signatures, okay?
Yeah, that's why I wrote it, yeah.
Great, so, that, and
How many copies you need?
I need to be.
3.
No, just two.
Two originals.
One,
Two originals?
Two originals. And, let's see. Other than that, need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
By-
made and is adjourned.
I need a second? Second. Second by Dan. Very good, thank you.